In this video, we're checking out this Apple II monitor. They began production with these in about 1983, 1994, I think. I plugged it in, and let's see what happens when I press the power switch. Nothing. So nothing's coming up on screen. You would expect to see the green phosphor here coming up on screen and an indicator light there glowing. But nothing's happening. There's absolutely no power going to this whatsoever. So let's crack it open and check out what's going on inside. Discharged. Now, I'll just remind you that I'm no expert. I do not know what I'm doing, and I do not recommend you copy anything you see in these videos. Working with CRTs like this is actually quite dangerous because there's lots that can kill you even when it's turned off. There's high voltage capacitors, there's the flyback transformer, there's this, the anode, which essentially turns the back of the CRT into like a giant capacitor. Like I said, hundreds of volts back here, potential to kill you even when switched off. So do not copy this unless you know what you're doing. So I do not recommend copying anything you see in my videos, nor do I recommend doing this unless you know what you're doing. Okay, now that's discharged, what I'll do is I'll pop this anode cap off. I'll just find the clip. You can kind of feel it when you poke around. If I put my screwdriver in and squeeze the top of this cap, should, with a little effort, that should come out. There we go. Squeeze and wiggle. Here we are. I think it's coming. I can feel it. There we are. So that is the anode cap. You can see the two metal prongs either side that clipped it into the CRT there. Here we are. Let me get you a better view. So there's lots going on here, but the thing I'm going to want to check out first, I think, is this board down here. So that's the board where the power, it seems to be the power's coming in. And since it is a power issue, I want to check that out first. It looks like there is a bolt at the bottom and a screw holding that in place. Okay, it's just the one, so it should be fairly easy to remove and find out what's going on. Okay, so I had to remove a few plugs, of course, and there's a few cable ties. Other than that, once the screw was out, here is the board. It's now free from the device, apart from a grounding wire, the green one there. And we have a fuse. So that's the most obvious thing I want to check out first. The easiest thing, it could be just a broken fuse. That would be nice and simple. So let's get my multimeter. We'll put it on continuity mode. And basically, if it beeps, then the fuse is intact. If it doesn't, then it's not. And it seems like the fuse is broken. I wonder what blew this fuse. It could be the capacitors on this board. So the capacitors these big yellow blocks that you see here, they're reefer capacitors, and they tend to blow after about 10 years. Here is an example of one that has blown, and they release this magic smoke that smells absolutely foul. And maybe one of those, or all of those, have failed and caused the fuse to blow. That can happen. Although these haven't actually blown yet in a catastrophic way, they could be damaged enough that they've blown the fuse. So let me zoom in and show you. You'll see these tiny cracks starting to appear. See? And that means that they're about ready to go, to explode. Let's go around the side, get you a view around the side as well. You probably see some more. Yeah, you can see those cracks there. So we're going to have to replace those too. But before we do that, let's remove that ground wire. I'm going to put some flux on that first, because that really helps when I'm using my wick to take up the solder. It helps the solder flow and take it up really well onto the wick, so I can take that wire out and remove the board. So here we are. Well, the board is now free from the screen, and you can see in the fuse there's no wire anymore. It's definitely blown. If I can zoom in a little bit, you'll see there. Yeah, so no wire. It's definitely gone. We're gonna have to replace that, and I might as well replace all those capacitors as well, because they're going to blow pretty soon too as well. It's been a few weeks. I have my new components to replace those capacitors and the fuse, of course. So here is the board. And here are my old components. Here are my new components. And first thing I'm going to check is the capacitors, the new capacitors, just to make sure they're in the range that we're expecting. So just fast forward here while I'm testing the capacitors. The values come out as expected. The larger reefer capacitors there was about 0.47 microfarad, which is what I was expecting. And the smaller one was about 0.01 microfarad. However, when it comes to these ceramic capacitors here that I'm replacing some of the reefers with, they come up as 3,900 picofarad, whereas the ones originally on the board are labeled as 4,700 picofarad. So what I did, I'm not sure if that difference is going to actually matter, but just in case, I tested a whole bunch of them and tried to get the ones that were as close as possible to that value. So about 3.9 was some of the highest ceramics I could find from that whole bag. And I just hope that it wouldn't cause too many issues. I think these capacitors are not vital anyway. I think they're used to filter out some of the noise in the power supply. And another thing to mention here is that these capacitors also are designated either a Y class or X class. You can see it labeled on the capacitor itself. And I'm not familiar with these different classes, but it is important to swap like for like. So those new ceramic capacitors are Y class, and those yellow box capacitors are X class. And one of the main differences, although I'm not terribly familiar with the different classes, is that Y capacitors, if they fail open, whereas the X class capacitors, they'll fail closed. So if you use the wrong class of capacitor, it could be a real safety issue. So I'm making sure that I'm swapping Y class capacitors for Y class and X class capacitors for X class. And with that done, it was time to solder my components to the board. Okay, so I have my capacitors soldered now. Just need to solder the fuse. So the fuse has a fuse holder. Unfortunately, I snapped it. I broke one end off of the fuse holder. So one is intact, one end, but this end has completely, as you can see, been sheared off from the fuse. So I'll try to pull it out. Hopefully I can still use those fuse holders because I don't have any myself. Okay, after a long time trying, I couldn't actually get the end of the fuse out. So I've done a bodge here. You can see I've put a bolt over the end of the fuse. I put a wire going from that bolt into the board. And now I'm going to just heat shrink that to try to make it a bit more secure and make sure it doesn't short on any of the other parts on the board here. So I think this heat shrink should be enough. So I would say this is a temporary fix. I'm just doing it this way just for the purposes of testing at this point. But I am ordering some fuse holders, but I'm not sure how long it takes for those to come. So for now, I'm just going to bodge this up, and yeah, it should work in the meantime while I wait for those components to come in and I can do it properly. Okay, let's test my bodge. Let's see if it's working as it should. There we go. So what I'll also do here is I'm just adding a cable tidy, looping it around the fuse and the capacitor and the magnet on the end there, and just tying that up a little bit just to add a bit more stability to that fuse so it doesn't wiggle as much and there's less chance of it coming undone. I don't think it will, especially with that heat shrink wrapping, but just in case, that should make sure it's okay, at least temporarily, while I wait for the new fuse holders to come in. So just a quick voiceover here. I put everything back together. Now it's time for a test. See what happens. So as you can see here, you'll be able to notice it now, smoke coming from the screen. So it's at this point I realize something's gone horribly wrong. You can see the smoke coming out of the screen. Something is frying inside. I hope it's not my bodged up fuse, but we'll only find out when we open this thing back up and check it out. Okay, I have found the issue. So I've opened up the screen, I've discharged it. Before I tell you what it is, I want to see if you can spot it for yourself. So if I can get a decent angle on there, if you look closely, I wonder if you can spot what the issue is. It is a visible issue, so you should be able to see it. Maybe if I get you a better angle, can you see it now? Just there. There's a diode. You can see one of the diodes is split. It's cracked. And I'm pretty sure that's probably what caused the fuse to blow in the first place, and that's what was causing all of the smoke to come out when I was testing the screen. So I again discharged the CRT, I took out the main board, and I got it on the mat to check out those diodes and see what was going on. Now I'm going to speed up this whole process of me taking out the main board from the tray, just because this is a huge project and I don't want this video going on for much longer than 20 minutes. So I'm going to speed that part up and get straight to checking out those diodes on the board. Right, so now we have the main board out. You can clearly see the split diode just there. And the others seem intact. So those 4 diodes, I'm pretty sure that will be the bridge rectifier. So that's what converts the AC to DC. And so looking around the board here, I can't see any other damage, any other clear, obvious signs of damage. And so we've got 2 diodes here, I see, similar kind of type, but again, those seem intact too. It'd be good to measure them just to make sure that they're all working as they should. So I have my multimeter set to continuity. I'll check those 2 diodes up the top first. Yep, we're having some continuity there, continuity there. Now if I switch my probes, it should read 1, no continuity at all. Yep, that's what we'd expect. And yep, no continuity. So those seem to be working. Let's now go to our bridge rectifier and have a look at those. Continuity in that direction and continuity in that direction. So we shouldn't get continuity in both directions. It's shorted and that's probably what's causing the smoke. It was burning up. Now let's go to the end diode there. No continuity in that direction. Switch the probes around. And we have continuity. Onto the broken one, continuity. No continuity there. Now let's switch those around. Continuity. And continuity. Okay, so yeah, the others seem to be working. I'll replace them all anyway, just to make sure. But that cracked one is definitely a dud, and we'll replace that, and hopefully that will fix the issue. So here are the diodes that I got to replace it. There's the number of the diode. I found it in one of the Apple service manuals online. The exact number I need. All 4 diodes are the same, so I can replace all 4 with that particular model number. And so here I'm just testing the new diodes just to make sure they work okay before I fit them into the board, and the ones I got here seem to be working fine. They're conducting in one direction and not the other, which is great. Then using a pair of pliers, I bend the legs of the new diodes into the same shape as the old diodes so I can fit them into the board nice and smoothly before I finally pop them in and solder them. and while I was there I gave it a quick service. Now what I'm doing here is I'm removing the thermal paste from the heatsink of the voltage regulator, replacing it with new thermal paste, fresh thermal paste, and putting it back onto the heat sink. And I'm also adding some electrical cleaner lube to the different dials and knobs. It removes some of the impurities and helps them turn a bit smoother. So that's what I'm going to do to all of the knobs on the back that adjust the vertical, the horizontal hold, and also on the side as well, which I believe is a contrast knob. So now is the true test. I just turn it on. Come on. Yep, we should be good. Right, there's no image. That's a bit concerning. Maybe... just get down. Right, let's play around with this one here. Turn it up, down, no. Oh my, okay. Not a good sign. Maybe something on the back. So some knobs on the back. Oh, yes. Okay, yep, and I can adjust is that the vertical hold? Fantastic. We got a green screen, no smoke, and it looks like it's working. Now, just to let you know that I was going to then test it using my Apple IIe, but this happened to my Apple IIe as I was kind of getting it ready for the video. It did this on me, and so essentially that's as far as I got in terms of testing. I think the monitor works okay, but in order to test it for sure, I'm going to need this Apple IIe to do that. But that's for another video. I think in the next video I'll be repairing this Apple IIe. Hopefully I can get it working, and then I can hook it up to the monitor, and that'll be a true test of the monitor's function. But I do believe it's working. It looks fine to me, and so when I give it some input, it should display the characters as per normal. So I'm calling this one fixed. Like I say, in my next video, when I hopefully fix my Apple IIe, I can give it a full test. Anyway, this video has gone on long enough. That's it for me for now. Thank you for watching, as always. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, remember to hit like and subscribe, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye for now.